think every real horror fan has had at least one experience of feeling out of place when compared with quote-unquote mainstream society. But I don't think there's ever really been a good attempt to understand why it is that people like horror. Like, most horror fans are generally normal people who have pretty good reasons for enjoying horror, but what are those reasons? The real reasons, not the ones they learn to tell people to make society leave them alone. That's what our podcast is really about, interviewing people in the horror business to find out what it is about horror that makes them happy. My name's Steve. I'm a bit of a psychology buff, and my co-host is my friend Chris, who's a bit of a horror buff. And so far, we've interviewed about 20 people in the biz, and we've had a lot of fun with it. We're going to continue interviewing more people, but also wanted to share some of the highlights with you, just share some of the fun stuff here. If you want to hear the real meat of the interviews, come check out the podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, or on our player on our website. In this set of excerpts, we're going to be talking to Jeremiah Rosario, who is author and director of Cat Sick Blues, and co-owner of the movie review site 13th Floor. Scott Schirmer, who's the writer and director of Found, Headless, and Bad Man. And Anthony Cotter, who is author of Sharp Knives and founder of Acid Brain Productions.
Oh my God. This is kind of horror related. I had an exorcism performed on me.
What?
Yes.
What? Really?
Yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot this. Yeah.
As a child?
As a child.
How old were you?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even have a recollection.
Okay, wait. Before we get into the exorcism, what did you do that made them think you needed one?
I was lactose intolerant. That was the whole. You think I was completely misdiagnosed here. It's not demons. Wow. It was milk. So
that happens a lot with religion. The whole science thing gets thrown by the wayside. And they're like, devils. Yep, you got devils inside you.
Yeah, man. I woke up in the middle of the night while they were watching it, kind of snuck behind them through the living room. I went through the kitchen, and I was like behind the couch. Excuse me. I was there. I kind of walked in just as that part where Danny, he's in bed and he's got his mouth like wide open. He's just like, he's seeing all the blood coming out of the elevator and all the visions happening. And just before he passes out, it's kind of early on.
Back of his head.
Yeah. That whole thing. I ended up screaming when that part happened. It caused my parents to turn around.
Busted.
Yeah, like, what are you? First of all, I said, "What are you doing watching horror films?" You said, "I can't watch this shit because this is not allowed." But yeah, they were watching it. Yeah, my dad he grabbed me, spanked me, and then sent me off to bed. And so like trauma, I was like spanked, and I had this thing in my head, and
how dare you?
Yeah, right. I can't remember the one I got, man, but I remember I obviously shouldn't have been reading it. Like it's like
it's gonna be something. What's his name? He did Uzumaki.
Junji Ito.
Junji Ito. Yeah.
No, yeah, like this was more like hentai or something. Because it was like and
You're right. Why did they have this in the planetarium?
Yeah.
Right. Like, what does this have to do with planetarium?
Okay, wait a minute. That wasn't in the gift shop. Like an employee put that down and you picked it up.
I don't know, but
Right.
I gave someone money for that, and I took it home with me. So I don't know if that was yeah, I have no idea.
It's probably the employee who put it down. Yeah, all right.
Probably. Here, kid, take this. You don't want that. So yeah, drop the science books. You'll learn way more about anatomy here.
Right.
But now I watched Ninja Scroll with my grandmother, who's also deeply religious.
Oh no.
Yeah. And oh my God, there's this really rough rape scene.
Oh God.
Where the rock monster ninja guy basically goes down on one of the ninja women, without her consent.
But it's okay. She had a poison vagina, so he got what was coming to him.
But she had a poison vagina, and he falls apart. And I don't remember. Time stood still for me while I was watching this movie.
Totally forget about the fact that your grandmother's sitting right there, just like, whoa.
I'm just sitting there in a puddle of sweat, and my grandma's behind me. I could feel her behind me, just judging me, right? Like, what are we watching? And all I kept thinking was, what is she going to tell my mom? So after the rape scene and there was some other stuff, was over, I kind of was like, all right, let me turn around and just see how she's kind of gauging this whole thing.
Let me check temperature in the room here. Oh shit, I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
she's crocheting. Wasn't even paying attention.
What's crazy is that it's funny you said that. She was actually like knitting something, and then I was looking at it. I was like, oh, Grandma, we could turn it off. And she goes, what? She goes, no, this is a great picture. She calls movies like great picture. She goes, this is a great picture. This has got, wow, this has so much action and suspense.
Just totally oblivious, apparently.
You got lucky.
I'm like, what? Did you not just see what just happened? Like
clearly
10
not.
seconds ago?
Clearly not.
I don't know, man. So I come to find out later that and this is kind of tied to my childhood. My grandmother, for as religious as she was a horror movie nut.
Oh, there you go.
Huh. Okay, so, not oblivious at all.
No, not oblivious, because she even brought up to me later, hey, you remember that cartoon you saw? What a crazy cartoon. Like, someone made that? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, we got to watch more. Come over. We gotta...
And sex and fear go hand in hand. Sex is scary. I mean, letting someone else inside your body, literally penetrating somebody's body, the creature growing inside you. I think sex is horrifying. I really do. So all my stuff usually involves sex and horror because I think they're equal. Yeah. They're equally interesting and terrifying.
Well, I mean, one has to do with trust and the other has to do with violation of trust. So
right.
Mm-hmm. By nature, it's intrusive.
Right.
But no, it's interesting to hear you say that. Like the whole thing about like the whole you can judge time periods by what horror is popular there, because horror movies and the whole horror genre is always based off of fear, but it's based more off of the common threaded fear or the more popular fear of the time. So yeah, you look back on 50s and it's nuclear scares, and the 80s it was, well, nuclear, but more of like a mutants created from nuclear waste, because we thought that nuclear waste at the time, gave you extra arms and flying powers and things.
Right. I think it's also interesting that horror started to parody itself. It's done it a few times over the course of cinema history, but it did it at the end of the 80s and into the 90s. Horror comedy kind of became a bigger thing than straight horror. And I wonder if that might not be a reflection of the fact that our society started to feel complacent and take things for granted. Nothing had come out that really scared us, maybe. Yeah. And gave us free reign to let horror become funny until something horrible like 9/11 happened again.
Yeah.
Maybe like now we still have horror comedies, but we have a lot more straight horror nowadays, I think, than we did in the late 80s, early 90s.
I once looked at my butthole in the mirror for like a good solid 2 minutes.
Really?
Just to get used to it,
I don't want to look at mine.
Thanks for sharing, Chris. I'm sitting here having a deep thought, about to say something, and you pop out. Yeah, I've stared at my butthole for 2 minutes.
Hey, man, world changing. You should check your butthole. You should check your butthole out sometime. I can't take me anywhere.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think you found something.
Yeah.
Nice. Good. I'm glad that I asked the question then.
Yeah.
Chris and I have had a sort of a friendly debate about, should we dig deeper or should we take the first question or first answer? And I can see his point of wanting it to be a fun call. My response to him was that, for some people, this is fun.
I just didn't want you to keep badgering people, man. You're like, God damn, man, take the answer.
No, it was a good balance. It's a good balance.
And that's what I said to him was I said, and you mentioned therapy, so I'll bring that up. When you go through some of this stuff, you kind of get you get to learn a gauge where you can tell, what's comfortable, what's not comfortable, where can I go, when's enough.
It's like waiting tables. You got to read the table before you start pitching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got a good goal then, because keeping it conversational and fun is one side of the spectrum, and the other one is kind of digging deep and talking about things people. That's more than just small talk, something that like the listener will actually hopefully identify with and want to like listen to.
Right. And that's another good reason that Chris and I are a good pair for this, because he can balance out that part of it.
Yeah.
I bring up mindless chatter. yes, again, thank you, Scott.
No problem.
Chris, that was your cue.
Yeah, I've had some wild apocalypse dreams, man.
Other than the fact that they're apocalyptic, do you see any common thread with them?
They end unresolved. Like, I still, it's not like the end happens and then everything's over and then I wake up. It's just like shit's hitting the fan and then the dream ends.
Yeah, like that whole shit's hitting the fan, then it ends abruptly. Like you see the mushroom cloud in the distance, and then it's time
to go to work, and I'm like, Jesus, the world just ended. Now I have to go and make eggs.
Yeah, you get to work. Your coworker's like, "Hey, how you doing? Good. In this reality, I just saw one where I wasn't so good, but I'm good."
So you mentioned that you got back into Halloween as an adult. Any good stories there?
Yeah.
Well, I have a 5-year-old, and she's very into Halloween.
Nice.
As far as me as an adult, I don't know. I've always just been kind of too busy, stuck working, with the exception of the year that I did the Towley thing. I actually, when I did Towley, I was security guard for this CD release show, so that was kind of a trip. I was like checking people in, selling tickets.
Hold on.
Then there was people fighting outside, and I'm like, shit, do I have to take this thing off?
No, leave it on.
But they were outside, so I'm like, all right, I don't have to deal with it.
It's just, I'm laughing, thinking to myself, as a guest, do I take that security guard, seriously? Like, how tight is the security here?
No. If I went to a place and Tally was a security guard, I would still give him the benefit of the doubt. I would still think to myself, like, this could be a switcheroo ploy. Like underneath that Tally costume, you're like 350 and 6 foot tall, and you could.
Well, that's the funny thing is, could you imagine the video of some patron getting their ass beat by Towley?
Yes, I can, and it's f***ing awesome.
You shouldn't have come here.
It's funny because I do actually have a black belt in karate, but I can't imagine putting it to use wearing that Towley costume.
Yes.
That would be great.
It was literally made from a poster tube and 2 towels, and like the poster tube was attached to the top of a baseball cap on my head. So it was a really awkward thing to wear.
I think you should resurrect that costume and post an instructional karate video, not even related to Halloween. Just
that's a great idea. Do a full kata in Towley costume.
Be very serious about it too, like the whole time. Yes. Like, don't break character at all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into making that happen. He gets his rocks off intimidating the shit out of this poor guy, you know what I mean? And like, just seeing those little personality traits of these up people, like, that's, for me, that's entertainment,
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
Rich characters just makes the story that much better.
Well, it's kind of interesting to hear this because, that's sort of been like a thing for me my entire life, is trying to understand why people do the things they do. That's not actually one of the things that draws me to horror. There's something else that draws me to horror, but I would say that trying to understand why people do the things they do has been something that I don't want to say struggled with, but has been a fascination for me my entire life, going all the way back to childhood. I remember walking into a room where my parents were arguing to ask them a question. It was an innocent question. I don't even remember what the question was, but I just remember being naive and thinking, oh, well, they're fighting, but I'll go in and I'll ask this question, and having one of them, I think my stepmother, turn to me and yell at me, and walking out of the room feeling like, well, that wasn't fucking cool. Like, why did she yell at me? Her argument was with my dad. It was completely I don't want to say unfair, but I could just tell it was wrong for her to take her anger out on me. And so there's always been this part of me that has, I don't know, I don't want to say was curious why she did what she did. I don't really care about her as a person, but that's just an example of it's interesting to me how people do things that on the surface or on paper may or may not seem logical, but they do. They do things that, looking back, might seem odd, but I'm sure to her it made perfect sense at the moment.
Were your majors in college split between anthropology and sociology, Steve?
Nope, computer networking.
Okay.
Although I mean, if I had an unlimited budget and unlimited amount of life, I'm sure I would enjoy both of those topics. So.
Now, you said you have something that drives you to horror. Can we hear what that is?
Sure. Listen to my interview. The first 2 interviews that Chris and I did were interviewing each other. So yeah, come check us out over at horrormakeshappy.com or check out some of our other excerpts until you find someone whose interview you do want to hear.